Welcome to Colonial Metalsmithing. I'm Don Zabolansky. When I thought about doing my next project, I thought about our country's 250th anniversary. And I decided it would be interesting to do the famous Paul Revere lantern that was used in the North Church. So, in order to get information on doing that, I happened to be in Concord, Massachusetts, where their museum houses one of the North Church lanterns, and I took some pictures. This is a picture of the top of the North Church lantern, and as you can see, it has punch holes in the top as well as the chimney. The purpose of those were primarily to let the heat out from the candle on the inside. Also, here's a side view, and keep in mind when you're at a museum and they have basically buried off barriers around where the lantern is, you can only get so close. But this is kind of a representation of what the side looks like. Two of the unique features are rounded columns as well as the punching in the top and bottom fringes. I was unable to do the punching in the top and bottom fringes because you'd need a die press with both a male and female die, and that was pretty expensive, so I didn't do it. Now, here's a picture of one of the replicas that was sponsored by the Concord Museum. This one is made out of brass, but they had a lot that were made out of tin plate or silver if you wanted. And these are very close to the exact replica. I'm sure they got a chance to go in and measure things. So anyway, I think they made 2,500 of these. So my first intention was to make a press break and press the top and put in basically this pattern. Now, as you can see, this pattern has really standard punches that I was able to buy or had. The square I turned on edge to make it look like a diamond, and then there is a triangle there. So just the two dies, the square and the diamond, they're $250 each. So to get something custom made would probably be, $2,500. And the place I got it, they didn't do any custom work. So after I made my die press break, which was a significant amount of effort, I was able to punch out or press out these tops. Now, from here to here is 3/4 of an inch, which I calculated as the measurement. And this is the best one that turned out. The scrap rate was tremendous. And it wasn't the scrap rate that bothered me, it was I had to punch the tops out before I pressed them. And I think the press die that I used should have been 1.5 times larger, and I think that was one of the major problems. But as you can see, I had all these ripples, and this is after I tried to fix it, so it was pretty bad. I have one here that I'll show you that's of course made, and this will show you the pressed top. Okay, there are some ripples in it, but they're pretty minor. On the brass one that I made, they're more significant. I then had to put in these because this was 3/4 of an inch all the way around, and the only way I could do that was I had to solder those in once I put the columns on. I got the typical chimney, but the top is a little bit different. I got a handle to hold it. This has antique glass in it, and it's got a candle that's kind of flopping around, and it's basically battery operated. It flickers. Obviously, it's a lot safer than, you know, a regular candle, and it's a lot more convenient because you just turn it on and turn it off. So this is the press brake top. Then I decided that it was time to look at a regular folded top, which is a traditional way that a tinsmith would make a top. And I made two patterns. One's a low top and one's a mid top. So as you can see, when you look at the patterns, let me do it this way, this opening changes, as well as the circle on the inside. That's because of the geometry of the layout. And then of course there's a bottom, and these are 5 inches square. So here's a copy of the low top. And as you can see, it's finished a little bit nicer. There's no ripples in it. Fairly easy to make. It's got the same top as the other one. This one has, again, finials that are from a lamp, and it has what I call a pigtail clasp to open it. I call it the pigtail only because it's curled like a pig's tail. Now this is what I refer to as a high top. I didn't put any stampings in it. I thought I'll try one without stampings. And but it's got the same top, the same handles. The finials are a little bit different because they go better with the brass. It's got an antique looking glass, and it's got what I call a hairpin clasp. And moving on, I said, well, you know, I've deviated enough from the original design. Let me make something a little bit larger. And I came up with the pentagon. And this is the layout pattern for the pentagon. Same layout technique as you would use on any pattern. And then here's the bottom. So this would represent the bottom after it is put together, and this would represent the top after it was folded up. And I never used these because I decided that this turn down flange would be 3/4, so then it really became scrap. Now the punched pattern that I used on this, and actually here's one that's been already punched out, looks like this. I always make a pattern because I think it's difficult to end up with something that looks decent if you just do it randomly. And of course, here is the layout with a punched pattern. This is fairly flat. And the tops on all of these are the same. This is, again, the pigtail clasp. And on the inside there are 3 handles, only because there's room for 3. And that gives you a little more illumination. So that's where we stand on the North Church Paul Revere lantern. It was kind of interesting coming up with the different concepts and trying different techniques and different ways of doing things. I couldn't make it exactly the same. It would have probably cost, you know, $10,000 worth of special tooling, and when you're a hobbyist, that's a little bit too much. So I hope you stay tuned for the next episode where I go over how to make the components and how to assemble them. Bye.